Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Television, show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by Ryan Abraham and Shotgun Spratling. It's a bonus Tunnel Vision. There's so much happening. We were like, you know what? We got to come back on a Tuesday and do a bonus Tunnel Vision. So that's what we're doing tonight. We have a lot to talk about. We're coming straight from USC's Tuesday practice. We saw Lincoln Riley there with some other people that will be named. We'll talk about that too. And we also were all at the introductory press conference on Monday. We'll talk about what we heard from President Carol Folt, Athletic Director Mike Bohn, Chief of Staff Brandon Sosna, Chair of the Board Rick Caruso. It was a whole palooza, and of course from Lincoln Riley himself. So we'll talk about that. A lot to get into, guys. Please tweet us, #TunnelVision. I'll put your tweet up on the screen wherever you're watching, Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Put your comments, questions below. We love hearing from you guys and answering your questions. No calls tonight. Sorry about that. We'll get back to calls in a bit in later shows, but we're just going straight Tunnel Vision tonight. But guys, like I said, a bonus episode was needed because it's just been a wild couple days for USC.
It's been, the last 48 to 72 hours or so, whatever it's been, absolutely insane. When we did our Tunnel Vision show on Sunday, it seemed like the BYU game was a month earlier, and just everything that's been happening since then, and getting to talk to Lincoln Riley for the very first time on Monday night in the Coliseum, in the Coliseum with beautiful weather. Like today's kind of foggy. If they had it tonight, like it might not have been as pretty as it was when they had it yesterday. The sun setting and the Hollywood sign up there and the downtown, it was just spectacular. USC hit it out of the park, and we just haven't seen USC do that. They sort of like do things, half-assed or whatever, and then it just kind of works out. This was not like that. This was fully planned. A lot of things had to come together to make it, as pretty as it was and as smooth as it was. Big time, you had Mark Sanchez there and Matt Leinart and all the big heavy hitters. And it was sort of like a victory lap, I guess, for this athletic department that really was criticized since Mike Bohn came on. From people, even me, people, we've been critical of some of the decisions. And there was a lot of singles that were hit. There was a lot of foundation building that had to happen to allow a guy like Lincoln Riley to be able to walk into the situation. And he seemed as happy as he could be to be taking over the USC Trojan football program. But it just rare have we seen something in the athletic department work like this as part of a plan and not just sort of that just kind of just all worked out. This really was well thought out. Props to Mike Bohn, Brandon Sosna. They did a really good job with this. A lot of the rumors, a lot of the things that you had heard, I don't think those things are true, all the negativity stuff that was going on. So kudos to them, and it's made our lives much more exciting. It's much more fun to talk about positive, crazy stories around USC as opposed to negative ones. And we've had our share of negative ones.
There's always crazy stories, though.
Every couple of months, there's like a drop everything. You look at your phone, oh, crap, let's go to the studio. We got to do something because this is awful. And this is more of the opposite of that. This is incredible. And we, thanks to everyone. If you're new members of USCFootball.com, you can go still do that if you haven't done that yet. But, we've set all-time high for subscriptions and record number of people sign up. So we appreciate that. The Peristyle family is growing, and it's tough. Like from our point of view, we do a lot of reporting. If Shotgun goes to a high school game and reports on some 4-star like running back, and he goes back to Peristyle, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Clay Helton's still the head coach." Like it was a lot of that, and you feel like you're putting in a lot of work and trying to give good information to the USC Trojan football community. And a lot of people just were sort of like not into it, and they just became apathetic, which completely understandable. a lot of those people are back, and their people are coming back in droves. And it's I mean, much cooler for us when we like put up a story and everyone's like, yeah, this is great, So it's been, long answer, Keely, but it's been a crazy few days. Very happy for all these USC fans that just, bleed Cardinal and gold and just wanted some good news, wanted something positive to happen, just haven't had it, just been beaten down over and over and over again. They're finally getting something positive. So we're really happy for them.
Yeah.
All the fans, I've said this on a couple of shows, but this is the first time since I've been at USC and I got into Los Angeles in 2009 that there has been unity among the fans. Everyone is excited. Everyone thinks this is a great move, a great hire. There's some. The only thing that people have even argued about is like, how did it come about?
Yeah.
Was it something they've been planning for months, or did it come in a 12-hour window? Who made the final decision? That's what people are arguing about now, because they're kind of searching for something to argue about.
Still got to argue for something.
Yeah,
right?
of course. It's the P. But for everyone that's just has said, I can't take it, I can't spend any money, I'm giving away my season tickets for whatever, welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back. We're glad to have everyone back. We know, and I thought there was a really interesting comment from Brandon Sosna. He said, we know how many people's lives are rooted in USC football, and they understand the impact that a decision like this has. And this is going to be a huge impact not only on USC football, but on UCLA football and the 10 other teams that are in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
It's going to be a huge impact on the college football landscape.
Yes.
Look at the dominoes that are changing. And granted, one of those, there's never been really a blue blood to blue blood in the last 20, 25 years. That hasn't happened, with a coach at a peak, or not a peak, but at a high, like Lincoln Riley was, coming off 10-win season, in the mix for a college football playoff, in the mix for a conference championship berth. And that all kind of ends in that Oklahoma State game, and suddenly that was USC's window.
Yeah.
Brandon Sosna also said that time, I think he said that, when they saw the loss, it was like the enemy's gates are down.
Yeah.
Now's the time to attack. They went out and got Lincoln Riley. But fans just have not had something to unify them. Even when the 2017 Rose Bowl, that season, there was still a lot of fans that were saying, it's just Sam Darnold. He's leading it. This is a blip. It's not going to happen again. And those people end up being correct. Clay Helton wasn't the guy to lead them to a college football playoff. And, there's still some people that are pushing back, and we're hoping and optimistic that, things could improve and get better, and that never was the case. So there's been that back and forth for ages for us on the message boards and stuff. But it's great to see everyone unified and everyone just excited. There's so much excitement around the Coliseum right now. And it was, what a beautiful backdrop it was yesterday.
It was gorgeous.
Great day for it. And I think it felt like the sun was shining on the Trojans then, because the sun, as it crept down at the end of the ceremony, there was sun on the face of many of the Trojans there, and that's what it kind of felt like just in general. But this is a move that changes the landscape of college football, because you take a power from the Big 12, move it west, maybe the Pac-12 can finally get back on the standing that it used to be, where it's equal with the other four group or Power 5 conferences, rather than being Power 4 conferences and the Pac-12 little brother, a little bit behind. So we'll see if that can change. But the coaching carousel is crazy right now. So the college football landscape is being dramatically overhauled in 48 hours.
This is the craziest we've ever seen
in a week.
Talking to like Bruce Feldman, any of the national college football writers, it's never been like this. And I think I was listening to Bruce and Stu on the Audible, and Stu brought up, they really got to change the early signing period, which I'm glad to hear, because I've done a ton of radio the last couple of days, and that's something I try to bring up. The reason it's this silly of a season is because of the early signing period. Like, that's really what's going on. You need to fire your coach early. You need to get the coach. I mean, Brian Kelly can still make the college football playoff, and he left his team. Like, he's going to LSU, and
not like a super long shot, like realistic chance this weekend if a couple teams don't play well.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that he could be walking away from a college football playoff team. But I think the early signing period, which was meant to help the student athletes, has only hurt them. It's kind of those the best intentions or whatever. Like, they had good intentions for this early signing period, but the timing of it's terrible. It's making coaches get fired earlier. Coaches are leaving, and then players are left like holding the bag here. So, and then they got to transfer, and it's a mess what's happening in Oklahoma right now, and that's if you didn't have the early signing period like when it is, it probably wouldn't be happening that way. You could take a little more time and all that, but hopefully they make a change. I hate that rule. Hopefully they make a change. But the way this silly season is sort of like if you had, the BCS when there was if there was a number 3 team that was undefeated and great, you needed something like that to blow up the BCS. You kind of needed something like this to happen to say, oh my God, this early signing period, this is not the right thing.
Yeah, and one of the things USC, they wanted to get somebody in for the recruiting, obviously, but they also wanted to get somebody in because this week is a chance to evaluate the players. Lincoln Riley was at practice today, along with some of the assistants that he has brought with him. They were able to watch the Trojans, watch the players, get an idea. Okay, what do we have to work with? What are some of the challenges going to be for us to work with this roster? So that's something that Brandon Sosna also said that they wanted to do, and they would like to get it done. So if, again, going back to the Oklahoma State game, if that, Oklahoma had twice had the ball inside the 30, I think it was, both times, their last 2 drives. If they kick a field goal both times, then they win.
Yeah.
Or if they make it on 4th down, score a touchdown, they win. Instead, they lose, they don't make it to the Big 12 championship, and suddenly Lincoln Riley is coming to USC. So dramatic change of events that may not have had if they win that game and advance to this week to the championship. Lincoln Riley is not USC's head coach right now, and he may not have become USC's head coach because they may have went ahead and tried to make that move because, again, one is early signing period. They want to get somebody in, try to recruit for 2 weeks, and the other one being they wanted to give them a chance to view the team since they did have this extra game. So, it could be completely different. The early signing period, real quick on that, they got to move it before the season.
Yes.
That's what I think is the solution. Move it before senior season now, and advise a lot of those seniors – don't make a decision yet.
Yeah.
Wait till the actual signing day. Don't try to rush into it. But if you are set, that's your dream school, wanted to go there all your life, doesn't matter who the coach is, if everyone gets fired, if they take away the football team, you might still go to that school. That's the guy that needs to sign. Everyone else, just wait. Just wait it out.
I think that was the point of it. They wanted that to be the case. And then all of a sudden, just everyone signed in December. You're like, you're getting ready for a bowl game, coach is getting fired, all that stuff. Yeah, it's not working. So hopefully, I love the February signing period anyway, but if you do an early one in July or August, and you got a few players signed, that's perfect. You don't need this December thing. It's just nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, gentlemen, you dipped in and out of basically every topic
we're
going to talk about tonight. It's fine. Y'all had a solo pod. It's fine. I'm just over here.
Oh, wait, Keely, you're still here. I thought we were.
I'm still here. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Okay. Let's go back to, shocking, I heard that. The press conference, introductory press conference on Monday. I thought the statement from Mike Bohn was interesting. He said, "It was never our goal to change the landscape of college football with one of the biggest moves in the history of the game, but we did exactly that. It sends a loud and powerful message to the college football world that this sleeping giant is wide awake." And Ryan, I know ever since I've been working with you, you have been saying that the brand of USC is so strong and you don't have to mess it. It's so easy to just let USC be USC. It looks like USC is going to try and return to USC. What does that do for the conference, the West Coast, and just football in general?
Yeah, first I think with just the USC fan base, because when we met with Mike Bohn and Brandon Sosna, and you tell people hey man, these guys know what they're doing. They're going to come in and make some really good decisions. I think all everyone focused on was they didn't fire Clay Helton fast enough, so they have to be idiots. Literally, that was what a lot of people would tell us. And I think now, we had an apology thread on the P about what was going on to apologize to the athletic department. And I feel like it was a bold statement by Mike Bohn, but I don't think there was anything that wasn't true. This is like Shotgun said, you just don't see blue blood to blue blood happening. Now, you had another one happen, the next day with Brian Kelly going to LSU, and I think that
if you count LSU as a blue blood,
yeah, USC sort of forced LSU's hand because they were going to tried to get Lincoln Riley. They were going to they wanted to make the big splash hire. That's what they are known for, and so they went. Good for them. They went outside the box and get a Brian Kelly, which no one even thought was possible. Both hires, no one really thought was possible, but it did change the college football landscape, and it might have an impact on just the rules with when they're seeing how these things are happening. And you feel bad for the Oklahoma players, and you're going to feel bad for the Notre Dame players, especially if they make the college football playoff and you don't even have your head coach there. That's not the best thing for the student athletes, and I think maybe something like this could actually change the rules in college football, where they get rid of or move the early signing period. But it also changes the landscape in the Pac-12. Of course, USC has been that sleeping giant. It's sleeping no longer. If you read message boards from any of the other schools in the Pac-12, most of the fans aren't very happy. They were very happy with Clay Helton. They were very happy with kind of incompetence at running the program. They're not happy that Lincoln Riley's going to be there because they're like, we had like a 10-year window to do some good things.
I forgot about how salty fans get about USC kind of returning to prominence because it's been so long that they were just happy that Clay Helton was around. It was crazy.
7 years of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the message boards of USC's rivals and Pac-12 schools was just they were not excited about this move.
But in general,
little bit different take from USC fans.
But if you're George Kliavkoff, you're happy for this. You want USC to be good. I mean, and if you're an ASU fan, you should want USC to be good. Now, yes, does it make? If you're a Utah fan, is it going to be harder to win the Pac-12 South? You've won it 3 of the last 4 years. Yeah, it's going to be harder because USC is going to be good, but it helps the whole conference. And if Utah has a great team, maybe they only do that every 4 years, but they have a great team and maybe they knock off USC. They're going to get a lot more credibility for that great season when you have beaten USC and you're 11-1 or whatever, than if USC was just terrible and you beat the crap out of them and it doesn't really matter. Oh, you lost the game. You're not very good. So I think it sets things up for if you're a really good Utah team or Oregon team, having a great USC team in your conference that has a whole bunch of 5-star players on it, which that will be the case when Lincoln Riley's here for a little bit. It gives you more credibility. So I think it's something that the Pac-12 should want. They don't necessarily want that from the message boards that we're seeing.
Other fans don't want that. They don't want USC to be good. If you are a college football fan, however, if you're not just a fan of your team, if you're also a college football fan, then you should want this because it raises the identity of the Pac-12. And it potentially puts a power back on the West Coast. Now, Oregon has tried to take over that, but they haven't been able to get over that hump and be a consistent college football playoff contender. They seem to get in there, trip their own selves up every time that they have that opportunity. After Jameis Winston beat them, just haven't been able to reach that consistent level. So the potential of bringing a power back to the West and making it instead of a regionalized sport, a national sport once again, because it's been a regionalized sport
very much
in the Southeast and Ohio State. That has been it. That has literally been it. A regionalized sport and Ohio State, and that's it. And now Michigan beating Ohio State, I think that's a positive thing overall for the Big Ten, and the Big Ten just having all those other teams that are kind of competing and the contracts that were thrown around the Big Ten. I think what has happened in the last 2 months is great for college football as college football is reaching towards a precipice of potentially expanding the college football playoff, the big TV deals that are coming. I think this is a great opportunity for college football to actually expand and become a national sport again, rather than just a regionalized Southeast sport.
Yeah. The TV contract's coming up in a couple of years. So
that's what I was about to ask you, Ryan. What does this mean for the TV contract?
It's huge for George Kliavkoff, and it's huge for the Pac-12. You need USC to be good. I mean, to have USC have like a 5-star or 2 on the roster, that's just not, and all the 5 stars from Southern California going elsewhere. You need USC to be able to snatch those guys up, and it looks like Lincoln, he already got a 5-star commitment. He's been on the job for 48 hours. So, that's the kind of stuff you're going to expect. The guys that you were used to going to USC again. And I think that helps the whole conference. And then if USC, say in year 2, under Lincoln Riley, they're vying for a college football playoff spot. I mean, that definitely helps when he's negotiating that new TV deal. Like, oh, you got a good USC? Okay, that's going to help the whole Pac-12. So
if there's a palpable buzz around USC and Lincoln Riley, that only elevates everything because then the LA market is actually fully invested in college football. Then you can sell that to everyone. The Fox, the ESPN, it creates that much more of a bidding war versus if the Salt Lake City market, everyone's invested in college football.
Yeah, and just brand-wise, like you talked about Keely before, I think I was one of the radio interviews I was doing today, and they were talking about it. And think about USC in 2016. They start off 1-3, get smoked by Oklahoma, lose to Utah, Alabama, lose to Stanford, and they go out and they win their next 9 games or whatever. They put Sam Darnold in at quarterback, and they won the Rose Bowl. When has UCLA last won a Rose Bowl? USC can have a terrible start to the season and still turn things around and win a Rose Bowl. And I don't know if there's any program in the country that could do that. It's just set up for you. If USC wins, the path is very simple. You just have to not screw it up. And even when you started off the season poorly, you can turn things around. We've never seen anything like that before, a 1-3 team winning the Rose Bowl. I mean, I don't know who could end up doing something like that.
Wisconsin had a chance this year.
Yeah, they made a run.
They were, I think they were 1-3, and then had won 6 or 7 straight before losing last week.
Yeah.
So if they would have won last week, they would have been in the Big 10 championship and had a chance to advance the Rose Bowl, because I don't think they would make the college football playoff. But
that's the brand, and that was run by Clay Helton. So if Lincoln Riley has a team that stumbles out of the block and they lose to Stanford week 2, they run the table like they're getting the benefit of the doubt. USC will get the benefit of the doubt, where Cincinnati, the College Football Playoff Committee, is looking for reasons to move them down. They're still number 4 today, behind a couple of one-loss teams ahead of them, even though they beat Notre Dame. And that's sort of a blocker for Notre Dame to get in there, but they could still move up and be, Cincinnati would have to be 3 and then Notre Dame would be 4. But yeah, the brand is still strong. And I think Mike Bohn and Brandon Sosna, they proved that, and they showed, look, someone like Lincoln Riley, one of the smartest, young minds in college football, looks at the potential of the USC job and goes, yeah, you can do a lot of great things there, because you can. And I think some of the fan base, maybe some of the media, just sort of was down on USC because it's been poorly run for so long. But we always said it has that potential still. And being able to bring in a Lincoln Riley shows that. And it's made everyone else around in the Pac-12 afraid. And then you made a right hire, right? Like if they're going, oh crap, if you hire Jeff Fisher, everyone's like, yeah, more Clay Helton kind of stuff. But no, you hire Lincoln Riley, they're like, oh,
and that's where the message boards we've seen.
Yeah, we're doomed. And that's if you're a USC fan, that's all you don't need to hear our analysis about the hire. Ask your UCLA friend what he thinks about it, and you're like, crap, that's what you want to hear.
A lot of UCLA fans were like, why did they score 62 points? Why did they do that? Just forced their hand and made them want to go out and get that's what rivalries are about.
Yeah, and Chip Kelly's going to stick around now, so yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
But Brian Kelly's not. So your other rival, and we had a question for the Family Feud podcast, plug if you guys haven't listened to it yet today. But
I'm halfway through.
Were USC fans more excited about getting Lincoln Riley or having Brian Kelly leave, and Notre Dame fans being spurred by him to go there? So, both actually. USC fans were both excited about both of them. Yeah. But we'll see who Cincinnati ends up getting. Could work out better in their favor.
3 out-of-conference games next in 2022, all at home: Rice, Fresno State, and Notre Dame. And 2 of those schools are switching coaches, so a little bit of advantage there. I mean, USC switched coaches, but that's a plus. So that's not.
Now, I know it's easy to win the press conference, but I thought Lincoln Riley did well on Monday. I thought there were a couple of, as Chris put it in his content piece, 10 eye-catching quotes. I was wondering what stuck out to you most on Monday. I'll hear from both of you, whoever wants to go first.
Just the genuine joy he seemed to have of being there. It is a blue blood to blue blood thing. And Norman, Oklahoma is different than Los Angeles, California. And you got a young family. If you're moving, you're like, hey, kids, we're going to move to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm going to be the Nebraska head coach. That's cool. Nebraska is a great program and stuff, but the kids you're bringing them to Nebraska. You can't drive to Disneyland from there. You're bringing your kids out here. Oh, by the way, on the weekend I got to work, but mom can take you to Disneyland. It just seemed like he was like, this is going to be really cool. There's so many people that just move to the city, for different dreams, or you want to be an actor, whatever it is. It's a big city. It's a destination. The weather's great and all that kind of stuff. You can go skiing and surfing in the same day. All those things, all the professional sports teams, you want to go to a Dodgers game, or let's go see the Lakers, and he can probably get courtside seats and stuff like that. So it just seemed like he was genuinely just excited. Sometimes you need a little change of scenery, and I've not been to Norman. I've heard great things about it, but it's going to be a different feel being in Los Angeles. So it just seemed like this was the challenge is real. Hey, he had Bob Stoops' team and did a great job with it, but it was something that was already built, and he continued it. This is really pretty much a complete rebuild on his part. But I feel like just the genuineness about moving to L.A. seemed to be something that really appealed to him. Just looking around when he was looking at the scenery, this is crazy. It's yeah.
His first words were, wow, is this real? And he turned to look at the L.A. skyline behind the Coliseum. I think awe. He was just in awe of L.A. and talking about how that it is a great opportunity for his family to experience something new. I thought that was really interesting because that's not something you really expect in a coaching press conference necessarily. The thing that stood out to me that caught my ear at least was he talked about we got to build the roster, we got to build the coaching staff, we got to build facilities. And I said, "Whoa, build facilities."
Good, yeah, good point.
I thought that was interesting, and he mentioned it again. And I asked him afterwards when we had our smaller media scrum, and I asked him what's the first thing he's got to get. And I mentioned facilities in the question, but he did say the first thing that they got to focus on, the first most important pressing thing is getting the staff together.
Yeah.
Because then you can go recruit, and then you can worry about everything else. But the facilities thing, I asked Brandon Sosna about it as well, and because it was mentioned, he said once they had made the decision with Clay Helton, one of the things they did is they went to the architects, the designers, the blueprint designers, and everyone, and got some plans together about some potential facility upgrades for USC so that they could use that in their pitch to coaches to say, hey, this is something that we're doing, because that's one of the big things that ends up with some coaches making moves is they want to increase in facilities. They want to, whether it be a football only facility or they want one of the things that's come up with Brian Kelly is he wanted a chef for the team. He wanted them to have their own training table, and Notre Dame was pushing back on that, and he'd been pushing for that and wasn't able to get it. So one of the big things that coaches often ask for is facility upgrades. It's an arms race, much more 10 years ago in football.
Yeah.
That everyone had to get something new, and that's what you want to be, something flashy to show the recruits and all that type of stuff. So I thought it was really interesting that was something USC had the foresight saying, we're not up to par with whatever all the other blue bloods, the college football powerhouses are right now. So we need to have an idea of where that can be. So if a Lincoln Riley comes and goes, yeah, I like your program, I like LA, but are you guys going to invest in the program in that way? And being facilities one, and I'm like, we would love to do that, but that's not something they necessarily had thought of. They definitely had thought of it here. Obviously, don't know what exactly the plans will be yet, but that'll be something interesting to watch going forward.
Yeah. In that same sense, Shotgun, I thought it was really interesting hearing from Brandon Sosna, and he said essentially 2 years ago, if they had fired Clay Helton, the foundation just wasn't in place. He was like, I don't think we can attract a guy like Lincoln Riley, whereas 2 years later, rebuilding, and we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show over the last 2 years, what Brandon Sosna and Mike Bohn have been trying to do with the athletic department. I just thought it was really interesting because it kind of verified what we had expected, is that you needed to rebuild kind of the decades of dysfunction that we saw in the athletic department prior to the arrival of Mike Bohn and his staff.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, just sort of a department that was rotting from within. And, we said on the show recently, like, hey, I think if they could go back, they would have fired Clay Helton earlier. You would save a lot of money, the fan base and all that stuff. But, knowing that you could actually, if you waited 2 years and you fixed everything up around it and you could get a Lincoln Riley, now it's a risk, of course. If you hired someone that you could have hired 2 years ago, then you sort of like wasted those 2 years. But if you're going to say, like, you're never going to get, he called it a tier 0 hire, like this was the top of the top as far as guys you could get. And if there was a chance to get him, and they're like, hey, but we got to wait. We'll keep Clay Helton around. We'll fire him when we need to, but we need to really build the infrastructure around him to attract one of our tier 0 candidates. And I'll give him credit for that. Like, that's not something I thought, like, yeah, could you have got Matt Campbell 2 years ago? Probably, right? I mean, but I don't think you got Lincoln Riley 2 years ago. So I think it's sort of like a Hail Mary pass. Like, I mean, there was a risk involved for sure, but you gave yourself a chance at winning the game instead of like maybe going for the tie or whatever. Like, they gave themselves a chance and they pulled it off. And so you got to get, tons of credit to the athletic department for being able to do that. And, if you're going to go back, I think if we ask Brandon or we ask Mike, they, off the record, I think they would say, no, I think we would still do it the same way because of what they ended up with in Lincoln Riley, If they ended up with someone like that was a good candidate, but maybe not like, the Lincoln Riley level, maybe they would have said, yeah, we could have got this guy 2 years ago. We could have fired Clay then and just sort of moved on. So there's a lot of circumstances and all that happening, but it worked out. A lot of years of just fans complaining and being upset. And, I'm not going to blame them. There was good reason. I'm just happy to see so many of them happy right now. And people on the peristyle getting together. It's like the Ghostbusters lines, like dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Like that's what we have on the P right now.
Nice
Yeah.
Ghostbusters reference.
Now, Lincoln Riley also said he wanted to make the Coliseum the mecca of college football, but then like a little bit later he said, I don't want to make empty promises, et cetera, et cetera. But
Cat's already out of the bag. He said the mecca of college football.
yeah, that's intense. Ryan, can you see that happening?
Yeah, and it's funny. One of his players said, "You said that to us." Breakups are tough, right? Like breakups are hard.
The best thing though is, you know what you never do, Ryan? You don't break up over text.
True.
Like Brian Kelly did.
Yeah, he did. He did it in person at least, and that's part of it. They kept it quiet, which the fact that USC was able to keep it quiet allowed Lincoln Riley to be able to do that. I'm sorry. What was the original question again, Keely? It was
Do you think
Mecca of college football.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be, and we saw that way with Pete Carroll. You forget like. You go into an Arkansas team, on the road at Arkansas they got like 3 NFL running backs on the squad and just go in and throttle them. And they put up 70 points in the Coliseum on these teams. Like these are good teams that Pete Carroll just boat raced early in the season. And it's very similar to what Nick Saban does, where his teams come into the season ready. Maybe you can get Nick Saban later on, but early on, you play in one of those out-of-conference games, you are done because he prepares better than you in the offseason. And Pete Carroll did the same thing. I think you can get to that point. And the Pac-12 isn't very good right now. You can dominate the league. You get a big win over Notre Dame, and it's like, wow, this team is legit. And get into a playoff and win a round, like you're going to be thought of as a college football power like right away. And I think just one recruiting class, if you can get a really good one to finish in the next couple weeks. Some guys in the transfer portal, you can be a legit team. And then one more recruiting class with, whatever else you want to do. And then it can be like, wow, this can be a contender. So, I think they can be at least moving the center away from the SEC is amazing. Obviously, there's so many great programs and stuff. But you need sort of like this alternate thing where, like, Clemson was, they're in the South, but they were at least like, hey, there's Clemson, they're really good. Or Ohio State, they're really good. You want another one. Want something on the West Coast to kind of spread out college football a little bit because it has, like Shotgun said, it's been pretty regionalized. So I think they have the potential to do that where they're going to be a team that everyone's going to look up to. I think they sort of, when Pete Carroll was that good, the SEC was like, we need to be able to beat teams like this. And now they've gone a great run. But USC can get back there again, I think.
You mentioned USC's wins early in the season. Could also come late in the season. I don't know, like 55-19 or something.
Those are good too.
Shotgun, you love just dropping that.
Drop it in there.
Those are good too.
That's for Dan Weber.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Dan Weber loves that score.
He does. Now, did you guys think it was interesting when Lincoln just dropped in? I asked a couple guys. The plane leaves at 6. There's not a written contract yet, but come with me to Essie. And a couple guys did, including Alex Grinch, who Lincoln announced will be USC's next defensive coordinator. Dennis Simmons, the outside wide receivers coach. Ben Wiley, director of sports performance. And then Clark Stroud, who's the director of football operations. The three of those, the 3 former names I mentioned, were at practice today with Lincoln Riley. Were you surprised about kind of that fast development of guys coming with him to Southern California?
No, I think that's great. I mean, you're going to bring some guys. He said there would be a few more, so we'll look for those names kind of coming forward. Check out the peristyle. We've speculated or put some sourcing about some of the different names that could be coming. But I think it's cool. Like he's got a good staff together. Alex Grinch was really well thought of when he was out here on the West Coast at Washington State. I know some people like, oh, he gives up points. Like if you're going to be Oklahoma scoring, with their like top 5 in scoring the first 4 or 5 years or whatever he was there, you're going to put up 42 points a game. The defense is going to give up some points. Like it's just going to happen. We'll see. So I think I like Alex Grinch as a coach. I think he's better than what we've seen around USC for quite a while. So I think names like that are good, but there's some other big names I think that he could potentially bring with them. But I think for the first time you're going to see a really professional, competent staff all put together. I know they tried to piece it together later in Lane Kiffin's career. I mean, like Clay Helton's career. Man, where am I bringing those names up? In Clay Helton's career, with the help of the athletic department, this is going to be, and Brandon Sosna talked about this, like they know more about football coaches than we do. Let him go out and make the hires and fires or whatever he wants to do. So I think Riley's going to put together a killer staff. It's not that hard to get people to want to move to Los Angeles, and I think it's going to be a real good one.
You know why you get a phone call, and I think Bruce on that Audible podcast, I think I listened to that one as well, said Alex Grinch got a phone call at 3:30 in the morning from his agent. Now, granted, if your agent is calling you at 3:30, it's probably something big.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, mom's calling or
Right.
whatever. It's not a buddy calling drunk or whatever. If your agent's calling, it's probably a big deal, and you're going to answer that phone call. But he got a phone call at 3:30. This is the offer. This is what could happen. Plane leaves at 6, or the plane, we're meeting at 6, whatever it was, to get on that flight to come to USC. And I think Brandon Sosna said it was still dark when they got back to LA. So that's how early that flight was. You know what that tells me? He's a damn good coach.
Yeah.
That's why, if you're with one of the top 5 coaches in the nation, I think I'll go with that guy.
Yeah.
Unless there's someone saying, if you're a DC, you're saying, oh, can I get a head coach job somewhere? Rather than waiting around and saying, oh, let's see who they hire. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe I get, you get stuck in limbo. And the next guy that comes in, Lane Kiffin's the guy that they should be looking at. Lane Kiffin comes in and he doesn't like Alex Grinch for whatever reason. Now where's Alex Grinch going? All the other jobs are being filled or whatever. So, if they give you that offer, you go, would you, Link? Let's go.
Yeah. Apparently they got on the plane like in Oklahoma gear and then got off. They had USC gear, so it was sort of like kind of crazy.
Transformation
Yeah.
plane.
I was
if
like,
you
all right,
will.
yeah.
Private flights, you can do whatever you want.
Sure, yeah. I asked Shotgun this on the Family Feud podcast. Plug Ryan. The hairstyle was a little feisty about Alex Grinch becoming USC's next defensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you've kind of come through years and years of complaining about stuff, so you want to
gotta grab onto something.
You look for something. Oh, he's bad. Like, I think you could look at some of the numbers, especially with, Georgia has an amazing defense this year, and they don't have that. The offense is like, okay, it's fine. It's nothing like when Alabama's changed their offense to go like crazy, score a whole bunch of points. Like, you give up points still. Like, you can play. You have great defenders. You can play good defense. I think they really tried to upgrade the defensive effort at Oklahoma during Lincoln Riley's time there. And I think it's, you're not going to see the same sort of offenses in the Pac-12. I would just say I feel pretty confident that he's going to come in and do some good things. And the good thing about when you're playing for a Lincoln Riley team, like, they are going to score like 42 points. So if you have a bad game and you give up 28 or 31, you're still going to win, So I feel like I wouldn't be too worried if I was a USC fan about Grinch. I mean, just, watch what he did at Washington State with these small players. Hercules Mataafa, whatever, remember him? He was like 250-pound, like, defensive tackle that just tore up USC when they were playing him. I like the schemes he had on defense, and I think he's going to come into USC and do some good things.
Shotgun? I know you said on the feud, but say it for television.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's faced Pac-12 offenses, I think that gives him an advantage. He knows what to face out here. I think the difference is I think his defense can be better than it was in Oklahoma because you got more fertile recruiting grounds, particularly for the skill positions, if you start with the defensive line. And that's what Lincoln Riley, he was asked about it yesterday. How do you fix the defense? He said the one thing that we've done under Alex Grinch is we've really focused on the defensive line, so that's going to be a big thing for them. So if they can start there, starts with getting zero, Corey Foreman, to live up to his potential throughout the rest of his career at USC, and some of the other guys that they can bring in. If they get a true nose tackle, those things starts there, and if they do that, they'll get the skill positions around it, and I think that he'll have a little bit better talent at USC, so the defense could be even better than it was at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. Tuesday was kind of a tryout. We saw Alex Grinch walking around, Dennis Simmons as well as Lincoln Riley. I was really curious coming into this practice. Are we going to see some different personalities, maybe a little bit more communication, something? What did you guys see from practice? Did it differ any now that there was an extra audience watching?
Yeah, I asked Dante Williams if it felt different, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, when there's someone else, there's another coach watching, like It's like if you're doing anything, we're playing pickup basketball and a cute girl walks by, you're like, oh, I want to like muscle up and and score a layup or something. You're trying to impress, like, the people are watching, you want to impress them, and I think people wanted to try and impress Lincoln Riley and the staff that he had there, but it's just a weird vibe because you have this makeup game that doesn't matter. Neither team can make a bowl. Dante Williams mentioned it's sort of like kind of like your bowl game. All the focus is on, playing Cal, but all the hoopla and you have this huge press conference the night before, it's nothing about the current team. It's nothing about, hey, Cal, the game's go. No, it's about the future of the program, and the future means everyone that's there is in danger of being gone. So even the players, and so it was just a weird sort of vibe where you have this, this guy that's asked to be the savior of the program, walking in and sort of observing. If you remember, like when JT Daniels came and he was like at spring practice with his like backpack, like watching practice and stuff. And whoever, I forget who was like competing at quarterback stuff at the time. Yeah, and you're sort of like, he's the guy. He's going to come in and save USC football. He's like watching the current people, and the current people are like, oh, so I'm going to be replaced. And I think
they had their opportunities.
They had plenty of opportunities. And same with this coaching staff, and you feel bad because I think individually there's a lot of really good coaches on this staff. I love guys. I mean, like Greg Nivar, like there's a bunch of really cool dudes on the staff. They didn't have a great leader in Clay Helton, and it's sort of like a piecemeal thing that was all sort of put together. I think guys are going to find some good spots other places, but if you're one of those coaches, you have to be like, well, here's the guy that's coming in and most likely cleaning house, and there's a good chance every one of them, each one of them, there's not a great chance. He might keep a couple, he might keep one, he might not keep any, but most of those guys are going to be gone, and I think everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm. The thing with practice today is, or throughout this entire week and on Saturday, is this is your opportunity. If you're the backup that's been complaining, these guys don't give me a chance, go prove it. If you're the star that says, I need more balls thrown my way, or I need to be putting better, I need to be blitzing more, or whatever it is, go prove it.
Yeah.
They're walking around and watching. This is your first opportunity to prove yourself to someone and say, that's a guy, we gotta design something around him. Somebody needs to prove that in practice this week.
John Jackson had a good play. I think I remember you saw that. It was like, oh, there you go. So he's
that's the type of guy who we think has been getting open. You go prove it. You go prove it in practice this week because you got a new coaching staff coming in that doesn't know anything about you. They have some relationship with some players from recruiting them, but they haven't seen them play in at least a year, if not 2, 3, 4. So go prove it to them. Say, I'm the guy you need to be focused on, and also I'm the guy for you right this year, next year, the next year after that. I don't need you going and getting a 5-star guy and worrying about, I got to get that 5-star at that one position because we don't have anybody. No, I'm your guy. I'm letting you know right now. So this is a huge week of practice. This is a chance to ball out and go give that first impression to the coaches about you're a guy they need to focus on, and they need to come and say, what can we do to make everything work for you?
I thought it was interesting, though. Nick Figueroa said not only are they looking at this week's practice footage, they're going to look at old practice footage, too, which if you were kind of caught in that gray area lull of it's an interim coach, the team overall is not playing well, and you just didn't practice that hard.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley and his staff is going to be looking at that practice footage. So it's kind of a learning lesson of you should go hard every single snap because you never know who's going to watch that tape.
Yeah. Oh, number so-and-so is half-assing it here. Like, I don't want him on my team. Yeah.
If Lincoln comes to me and asks me that, like, what, look like you're loafing. Oh, coach, yeah, bad hamstring that week. My bad.
The hammy.
I'm healed now 100%, 120, 104%.
And it's funny. We hadn't seen Keaton Slovis dress for practice, and he did dress today. And you're like, oh, I mean, I don't know if that meant anything. Like, he didn't throw the ball in any live drills or anything.
He did rehab for most of
it was
practice.
mostly rehab, but he did more than what we've seen.
That's a step forward from where he'd been.
And I don't know if it was just like, oh, new coach here, like maybe he wants to stay. I don't know, but maybe show, hey, I'm not going to just be like on the sidelines. I'm going to get out there and do a little.
Yeah.
And we've been asked the questions about Keaton Slovis' future. And most of the things we had heard and kind of what the expectation was is he's probably gone. Especially with the way the quarterback situation was handled, whether it be to the NFL, whether it be the transfer portal, whatever it may be, that it was more than likely he was leaving. That's what I've heard from inside the locker room. That's what kind of the players expect from Keaton. However, if you're Keaton and you look at it now, it depends on the draft grade that he gets. I'm sure he will get a draft grade, and that will be a big thing. But if you look at it and you go, see all those other quarterbacks in this system? Do I fit like any of them? Now, he doesn't have the athleticism of Kyler Murray or some of those guys, but they throw the ball a ton. They throw it to the receivers. He could look at it and be like, I could play in this offense. I could put up 45 points a game. I got no problem with that. And if he does that, his stock rises.
Sure.
Similar to a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts gets moved down the depth chart. Tua takes over, and he goes to Oklahoma, and that final year ends up getting him drafted, I think, 3rd or 4th round. So maybe Keaton sees an opportunity there that he wants to come back and compete. Don't know that that's the case. That's not anything that I've heard in the last couple of days, but that is something to keep an eye on. Whereas a guy that we probably expected to be leaving after this year, maybe he decides that this wasn't a great year, but next year with Lincoln Riley, it could be much different.
Yeah.
We got multiple questions about this in the chat about the future, Dante Williams' future. He was actually asked about it multiple times today in his post-practice press conference. What do you have to say about his future? It seemed like the answer really was just, I'm focused on Cal.
Everything he said was, I'm focused on Cal. And, to give credit, he wants to honor the seniors, the people that worked really hard and try to make every game count. They want to win this game. They want to go out and win this game. It's tough. He said he hadn't talked to, Lincoln Riley about any of that stuff yet. They'll figure that. They've met him. He said it was great. He started off his press conference complimenting Lincoln Riley all over the place. But he said they, and I know you might not read too much into it, but
I read it as talking about the players.
Yeah. To me, it just sounded like maybe getting a little bit distant, like it's his team now. It's not my team anymore. Maybe that sort of thing. I don't know. It's obviously a weird situation. We normally get a whole bunch of players. We just had like a scrum of 4 guys today. And they were talking about getting ready for Cal too. But Dante Williams, pretty much every word out of his mouth was something about getting ready for Cal. Every question sort of went that way. And it's tough. He's been put in it's a great opportunity to be the head coach at USC, but it's a really difficult situation if it's something that really you haven't been qualified for. And they asked him to do it, and I think he did his best the whole way. He's got a couple days left, and his reign of running USC football will be over, and then we'll have to see where he ends up. If he's still on the staff, going to be out recruiting, whatever he's going to be doing, we'll see. But yeah, it was a weird one today, just hearing him talk about it. But I think it was the right move. Just say, hey, we're focusing on Cal. He's not talking about the future and all that kind of stuff because he's not the one controlling it anymore. Now it's in Lincoln Riley's hands.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned recruiting. That's something that you asked Lincoln Riley about, Ryan, on Monday. The early signing period is looming, and he said, well, we're going to do a lot of it, meaning recruiting. And he wasn't lying. He did an in-home visit that very night with Raleek Brown. And then USC actually got a commitment today, so you guys can take that away.
We've done 47 minutes in this show. And haven't mentioned that USC got a 5-star quarterback commitment from Southern California, the number 2 player in the country in the 2023 class.
Yeah.
Which tells you, Ryan mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's been crazy. It's been hectic the last 48 hours or so, 72 hours. And that just kind of tells you where it's been at. It's been crazy on the recruiting trail, and we've barely even mentioned it so far.
Yeah, when I asked Lincoln Riley, it was sort of a 2-part thing. I was like, hey, does the early signing period impact the timing of your decision? And he didn't seem like it did, but I think it does. That's why things are moving as fast as they are. But he said we're going to do a lot of it. Now, we didn't get a confirmation that he would be hosting official visitors this coming weekend, but he's already done in-home stuff, and there's going to be a lot of that going on. You're already seeing there's been a few guys decommitted from USC's 2022 class. It's going to be completely reshaped, and I think there's going to be this is the best case scenario for USC. There's not a lot of coaches that USC could have hired that could move the recruiting needle right away. And meaning right away, that you only have 2 weeks until the signing period's up, the early signing period. He was one of those guys because he recruited Southern California so well. I think we're going to, the 2023 Malachi Nelson, like the LaSalle quarterback, there's a group of guys that were committed to Oklahoma from there. The fact that he decommitted and switched to USC that quickly, it's amazing. But that's 2023, which we expected. The 2022 stuff is going to be really interesting because if the more guys he can sign that are blue chip players that USC was not going to get otherwise, he can build that up. It's sort of a base going forward to build the program. It's not like he needs to hit the portal as hard because you don't have anyone in this class. If you signed Lincoln Riley 2 weeks from now after signing day, and USC had the number 60th ranked class or something, there's a big hole. He can fill that hole now, and I think it makes it easier to grow the program and try to become a power. Just because you've already skipped basically 2 classes out of the last 3, right? You had 2 pretty bad classes. Or 1.5.
2020, and then this year could have been the second in 3 years. So making sure that doesn't happen is huge for them.
Yeah.
Especially the extra COVID year gives you some options as well with some guys that could potentially come back. But we're hearing that some of those older guys may decide to move on, whether it be either just to finish their career or to transfer into the transfer portal. So we'll see how that kind of plays out as things goes forward. But it's huge. And there's so much traction because he had already been recruiting Southern California hard.
Yes.
So it's not like he's coming and, hey, my base was Texas, and now I got to make some new inroads, which is actually what happened in the last class, is they didn't have those connections necessarily, or the last coaching staff, the defense staff that was brought in, they had to start making those inroads, and it was unfortunately bad timing with the pandemic that they couldn't go out to spring practices and stuff like that, and that's how you build those relationships with coaches. He's already got those. He'd been to, Bishop Alemany and Los Alamitos and all these schools where there's prospects at, Modern Day and the St. John Bosco's, all those. He had been out to those and visited, had made an appearance at least during the spring, his coaching staff as well to see those practices. So they have those connections already. They can call on those. And they're already in on a number of big-time prospects. And we'll see what USC ends up with in this class. Obviously, the big name that is a Oklahoma commit is Raleek Brown, and they didn't even sleep in a bed in California.
And they're already
6 a.m. flight. Alex Grinch gets a phone call at 3:30 in the morning, and they're out recruiting. I think it was Riley and Dennis Simmons were out to visit Raleek Brown yesterday at night after 3 hours of press conferences and all that type of stuff. And Lincoln Riley's still on the move, so know if it's coffee or what kind of caffeine he's on, but I'm sure he had a lot of it.
Yeah, you got Devontae Jackson, the 5-star cornerback or defensive back, was longtime commit, dropped USC. Looked like Michigan would be a player, certainly Alabama. He comes out with a top 2 today, and it's USC and Alabama. Like, you might get him back. I mean, there's a lot of things at play. It's going to be a crazy 2 weeks ahead, building the staff and this recruiting class. And I think any guy that he signs in this class is just, it's like gravy. Like, you just didn't expect. This was a class that was going to be a throwaway class. You just didn't expect someone to be able to come in time and salvage it. And it's not even going to be salvaging. It's going to be building something like a top 10 class. Yeah. Which is, if you go from like unranked whatever to a top 10 class or something, like, that's insane. So it's just going to make it all the much easier for him to kind of build the program he wants to build, that if he was hired 3 weeks from now and he didn't get to sign this class.
Or even if it was a different coach, some of the other names that were thrown out, Matt Campbell, some of those who Matt Campbell, Iowa State wasn't recruiting Southern California. If he comes in and you're looking at it from the outside, and USC, I don't know where they're at, 60-something or 70-something, before this hiring, you would look at it and you'd be like, if you can get it up to the 30s, that's doing a great job.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
That's getting, closing and getting some, notable recruits and keeping the ones that you have. Well, USC actually had 3 decommitments today. What does that tell you? Is that bad news for USC or is that good news for USC? It's a little bit of both. I feel bad because 2 of the local kids, Ephesian Prysock and Kevin Green Jr., are 2 kids that I've watched 3, 4, 5 times this season at Bishop Alemany. Both great kids. Kevin Green is, a smaller kid, wide receiver, but as tough as nails. Ephesian Prysock is a bigger potential player, got a lot of projection there. But this staff is probably looking at it and coming in, and part of the reason you see those 2 and then a 3-star wide receiver, Caleb Douglas, decommit is because they're probably looking at it like, we think we can land guys that are higher on their board, guys that they've been recruiting more because they hasn't necessarily been recruiting those 3 guys at Oklahoma, whereas they've been recruiting Raleek Brown, who was committed to Oklahoma. They've been recruiting some of these other big-name players, and I think they're going to crush it in Southern California with the connections they already have. So I think they feel very confident in what they can get the rest of this class. So we'll see where it goes. But, it's a good start for the 2023 class, getting Malachi Nelson, getting a quarterback. He can be the leader of the class. Plus, he's got 2 teammates. One of them's a 5-star. Maybe both of them are 5 stars, or one of them's a 5 and one of them's a 4-star receivers in Mekhi Lemon and DeAndre Moore, who were both committed to Oklahoma. Mekhi Lemon has already decommitted. I would expect him to end up at USC. Loves USC. He needed USC to give him a reason. That's the thing. Yeah. There were so many kids in Southern California, big name players that needed a needed USC to give them a reason to stick around, to stay in Southern California. They want to. But
the way we've seen
recruiting, the inconsistencies, the player development. I don't know that I can stick around. It's not going to be best for me in my future. I want to. I love USC. I grew up watching Reggie Bush highlights, all that. But now they have a reason.
Yeah.
A big one, especially if you're an offensive player.
And I mean, we've seen a lot of coaching changes. I think it's pretty rare, like you said, blue blood to blue blood. It's rare that you can hire a head coach and they get a 5-star commitment like the next day. Like when does that happen? Like it takes time to build the relationships and stuff. Like you don't a coach comes in, okay, 5-star, you switch over. And it's like, that just doesn't happen. That's the uniqueness of the situation, that you get a guy from Oklahoma who recruits your backyard better than you do. And then, that's going to be a big
situation where you've seen a number of guys change commitments is probably Vanderbilt to Penn State when James Franklin went. That's the only one I can think of where there was kind of a mass, and there was some questions about that, and there's probably some questions about the Oklahoma. But I think it tells you how much players were committed to the idea of playing for Lincoln Riley and in that offensive system, and for the coaches that he had, that he makes an announcement and almost immediately there are decommitment. Yeah. It's not like, well, let me think about it for a couple of weeks and, and I decided this. Nope. Just I think there was 5 or 6 or 7 decommitments from this class and the next class. So I think that tells you the power of Lincoln Riley and what he did at Oklahoma. And we'll see if he can capture that at USC as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got an interesting question on YouTube from Andrew, who said, Lincoln Riley was all over Fox today. Do you think he will embrace the media and give you guys more access?
So Mike Bohn said they're going to keep being media friendly. Lincoln Riley wasn't known to be, super great with the media as far as like making players available and things like that. But you were the only game in town, and now you're in a town that has, 2 professional sports of every professional sports team. It's just been more open here. Now, Chip Kelly's closed some things down, but they still have a bunch of availability. But the athletic department was saying, like, they're going to keep it like it's been. So that's probably part of something they had talked to Lincoln Riley about. We'll see. We'll when we get some spring practices and things like that. He's been open so far, but obviously this is just the introductory stuff. And he was at practice today, saw media watching practice. That's probably a foreign concept to him. I don't think it's something you just couldn't do at Oklahoma. So
Chris tweeted out the video of him walking onto Howard Jones, and I think Oklahoma fans started to get that in their feed because they were like looking at all the windows around the practice field, and they're like, Lincoln's probably freaking out in his mind because like get frosted windows and stuff like that. So
because they had the whole thing with the dorms getting frosted windows so nobody could see the practice field, and then the Oklahoma student paper finding a way to watch practice from a building and seeing that Caleb Williams was getting first-team reps, and he shut down all media availability. So hopefully he's learned from those lessons. Yeah. And I think that the difference here is that the USC administration understands the importance of media availability in a city like Los Angeles and have done a great job. Again, commend the way USC handled everything yesterday. I thought it was great the way they set it up with the speakers, the Q&A session, and then the breakout media scrums, so everyone could kind of get what they want. And then the news media, the broadcast media stations were able to get a couple questions with Lincoln Riley as well to get one-on-one stuff. So I thought they handled that great. I think Lincoln Riley handled himself great. Because we've seen Drake London and Keaton Slovis and some of the guys that have gone to media day, and Drake London, I joked with him at the end of media day, he was just worn down by it. It's
exhausting.
It's a burden to be out there for 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is and be constant. And Lincoln Riley kind of went through that car wash yesterday, and hey, he's used to it. He's done the ESPN car wash and whatnot previously. So I just thought that they did a great job, and it looks like I hope that he's going to be open to it, because we don't want to have a contentious relationship with him, and we hope to potentially have him on the show at one point.
That would be great. Yeah, we'll try it.
Ryan Fox on YouTube wondered, how many players can Essie pick up in the portal? What's the limit?
There is no technical limit. No. It's as many initial counter scholarships as you have. So you have the 25 that you have each class, and then I believe it is this season that you are allowed 7 extra that you can potentially pick up from the transfer portal if you have 7 exit, I think is the rule. I don't know if this is only going to be a 2021 rule because of COVID and whatnot. I don't know exactly the verbiage on it and everything, but that means that USC could pick up to 32. And you're thinking, are they going to pick up 32 transfers? No, they're not going to do that, but they could pick up as many as they want there, and maybe they save some room in the class on early signing period to look for transfers going forward. But there are some schools that have done it. Texas State had a transfer-only class last year. So there is a precedent set for a team to do that. So they could get up to 32. That would be the max they get.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to jump into questions. We've been kind of doing topics, and it's already the top of the hour. So I'm going to jump into questions, probably rapid fire.
Yeah, let's
so,
rapid
gentlemen,
fire. Yeah.
let's keep it that
We'll do our
way.
best.
Why do you keep staring at me like that?
Jesse on Facebook said, who do you feel will return on USC's defensive line?
Nick Figueroa has already announced that he's coming back for his 6th year, I believe it is.
He was in the presser after practice today, and he was beaming. He looked so excited by the news.
He did seem pretty happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's what? Now they didn't say exactly what Jackson Dart. They were asked, and it's weird when you put 4 people up at once and one person is speaking the other 3. And someone actually had that comment: is they didn't look like they were happy. No, I think it was just that's kind of what happens when you have 4 people up at once. And Jackson Dart was asked about what was said in the meeting because Lincoln Riley met the team for the first time yesterday, had a team meeting with them, and didn't want to give that away. But Nick Figueroa was obviously excited about what came out of that meeting and what he thinks the potential is going forward. I asked him and Kanai, because both those guys have a decision to make about whether to come back, whether to do something else. Kanai said it's not going to affect him at all that Lincoln Riley's the coach. He's going to sit down with his family and make that decision later. Nick has already kind of told us that he was going to be coming back. So he said, I've already kind of planned on that. And he said, and I asked him after that if he's recruiting his teammates. He said, yeah, I'm definitely recruiting a bunch of guys to try to stay and keep them here. So he'll definitely be a big one on the defensive line if he can be healthy. Drake Jackson, I do not expect to return. And we'll see where the transfer portal is. If they push some guys out, we'll see, some guys that have been injured and haven't been out there. But I think everyone else should be coming back, unless they see a better opportunity somewhere else or don't think that they will have a chance to get any playing time at USC.
We got a question from Alex on YouTube who said, in 2 to 3 years, when we look back, who made the better hire in 2021, USC or LSU?
I think it's USC for sure. We don't know. I mean, obviously, if Brian Kelly goes and wins a national championship in year 1 at LSU, then. But I feel like LSU's thing was like, we need a big name. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big name that fits, and it might fit. But it's just everyone, all the podcasts I've listened to, the national media guys I've talked to, he's a big-time coach. I mean, he's done great things, and you sort of can run your court. 12 years at Notre Dame is a long time, and LSU, every coach they've hired has won a championship. So I think there's potential there. But if you just look on paper, like all the connections that Lincoln Riley already had to Los Angeles, the way he was recruiting and everything, it just seemed like it fit and it flowed, and it to me, just on the surface, made more sense than Brian Kelly going to LSU. Both were head scratchers, but if you look at the Lincoln Riley stuff, like, okay, I can see that's making sense. And the Brian Kelly one is sort of like, it might be a little square peg, round hole sort of thing. We'll see. I mean, I think he can have great success there, but just on the surface, I would say the USC hire looks, a little more. I'd rank it a little higher. Both are great, but I'd rank the USC one a little higher.
Shotty, quick thoughts?
Lincoln Riley.
Well done. Very quick.
Sorry.
We got a question from Riley on YouTube who said, will Drake London stay another year? I believe we got that question on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Selfishly, I hope he does. He's
But
enjoyed it covered.
It would be cool. I mean, he's done so much, but it's sort of like, ooh, like I could be in an offense where I don't have to make contested catches all the time, and I could put up amazing numbers. But he's going to make his money. We'll see.
I will verbally berate him if he decides to come back to USC.
Like, this is dumb.
No, do not do this. Go get your money and be set, especially if he's going to be a potential first-round pick, second-round pick. Make that money and be a millionaire.
There you go. Brandon on YouTube said, now that Lincoln Riley is at USC, do you think, we just covered that. Sorry. I was looking at, sometimes Shotgun helps me out, and I picked one that we already did.
Angel asked Ryan a question, though. He said, did you ask Lincoln if he knows the fight song?
Yeah, Ryan, why didn't you ask him that?
I mean, I assume he didn't know. Like, he didn't know
I don't
much.
know. He was so in awe of LA and of USC and the program history that maybe he learned it pretty quick.
Yeah, he knew like Matt Leinart by name and stuff. Leinart was sitting like right in front of me. Leinart was funny. So he turns around and gives me like a fist bump and stuff. And he just had the smile on his face. Like he was there with his son and his wife and stuff. And just you could tell how good it's funny. He's a good dude, and we've been texting and stuff during the search. And I actually ran into him locally here at a car wash and talked to him for a little while. But he was just beaming. I didn't get to see Mark Sanchez, but like Matt Leinart was extremely happy about this hire. So it's pretty cool.
There were not a ton of former players there, but there were a handful of former players there. And from some texts that I received and some messages on social media, former players are ecstatic right now. Super excited. I had one come up yesterday and said, F yeah, let's go. And just super excited. And like I would just come up to say hello, and that was the greeting. That was the greeting there. So I was just like, whoa, okay. And that tells you what everyone thinks. And these are former players. Some guys have been in the Pete Carroll era. I think they see in Lincoln Riley something potentially special like they had during that Carroll run. So
interesting. That's a good observation there.
Yeah.
Alex on YouTube said, how can USC keep Brandon Sosna? He seems amazing.
God, you guys are going to pump up his ego. He's going to be insufferable.
That was hard to read, I got to say.
I'm just kidding. No, we love Brandon. He's great. And it's funny, when he came here 2 years ago, was it before the Holiday Bowl?
He came at the Holiday Bowl.
He came at the Holiday Bowl, yeah. Like, he gets it. Like, he reached out to local members of the media. Me being one of them. I think it was the first guy he met. We met for like a beer in Hermosa Beach and just sort of like met him and talked to him. And our guy at Cincinnati kind of recommended that he talk to me. And he reads the message boards. He understands from a fan's point of view what's going on. He's been there. He was that guy. And so I think if you're a fan that you love these podcasts or video shows or the message boards, he's there. He's doing that, and so I think he's a man of the people, but he's also smart enough and cunning enough to know how to play the game and run an athletic department like a business, like it should be, and just be professional about it. And USC just hasn't had that for a long time. So yeah, I think he's great for the athletic department, and I think he's a great compliment with Mike Bohn. I don't know. I mean, I guess he met with the Detroit Lions before. There's going to be people that want to hire him, and I think the showing he put on and being, Mike Bohn called him the architect of the search to get Lincoln Riley. Like, that's only going to put more accolades on his resume, and I think other people will certainly go after him.
Go with Luke Fickell at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
With that duo hired there. That one's worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely a rise. He's young. He's a rising star. And selfishly, we want him to stay around. I mean, he's a good dude, and obviously does good work.
I mean, Rick Caruso, the board of trustees chairman, said, I don't know if it was a joke actually, said that he offered Brandon a job in his real estate company earlier in the day.
I think he was serious.
I think he was too.
I mean, he's the guy that developed the Grove.
He said it with a ha-ha, but I think it was like, well, I tried.
So some billionaire wants to like hire him away from the school that he's the chairman of the board of. So like he's already working for him, and he's like, no, I want to do it for my personal business.
Seems like a stamp of approval.
Thought he meant to ask me that question, but
maybe he just looked over wrong person.
Rick Caruso, if you need Shotty to run something,
I will gladly offer a shotgun to Rick
Caruso. Wow, we're getting pushed out the door.
Kidding. We got an interesting question from Carter on YouTube, who said, who was the first celebrity to hit the Trojan sidelines in 2022, 21? 22.
So we already saw. So we saw Will Ferrell in the Coliseum, at least on the video board, to give say goodbye to Tim Tessalone, because he was an intern for Tim Tessalone back in the day. I don't know. I think there's going to be celebrities coming out. I mean, you might see a Snoop. There's a bunch of dudes. I mean, we'll see.
No, I think I highlighted this question because I think it's really interesting. And if you're a college football fan, you saw some of those yesterday when you get Mark Sanchez and Matt Leinart there. But Reggie Bush down the tunnel, if we're counting football players, that would be pretty good.
Yeah,
start there.
He's around. He's local.
We got a question from Alex, who said, who will win the 2024 USC LSU game? We're doing 2-year predictions right now.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, here's a better question. Will Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly be the two head coaches in that game?
Ooh.
I would assume so.
I would think. NFL teams have already come after Lincoln Riley. They could try to take him away, at some point. And
True.
Same thing with Brian Kelly. There's potential there. But, I think 2 years from now, you make those huge hires that are going to be 8-10-year contracts, whatever they are. Yeah, I think they're going to stick around. But I don't know. I'll take USC. I think they're gonna. It's in Las Vegas. I'm going this week. I'm going to see Allegiant Stadium on Friday. I'm going to cover the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, I was gonna go, but then USC went 4-7.
Yeah. We were ready to go. I'm like, I'm covering this thing anyway. So
David on Facebook is airing out some complaints. He says, I hate the frickin' air raid. I need to be proven wrong. Is that a fair concern? With many question marks.
okay, so this is a different era. Did you watch Oklahoma football? They run the hell out of the football. It's a physical. I think it's a physical offense too. The way you see it's a spread. You know, there's air raid concepts, but the NFL teams, like if you talk to any of the X's and O's experts guys, every NFL team has taken pieces of what Lincoln Riley's done at Oklahoma. That's why the people have looked at it. I'm like, you're seeing this is just a modern offense. This isn't Mike Leach's air raid where you hand the ball off once every 10 snaps. Like they run the ball, spread stuff. You can have mobile quarterbacks. I mean, he had 2 Heisman winners and 1 runner-up in 3 years.
Rough.
Like, okay, so if you don't like that offense, like if you want, I went fullback and I went, okay, that's fine. You want to score 12 points a game, like you're not going to win anything in college football. Like
You can have 7 linemen out there, but you're going to be Illinois with Brett Bielema. Do you want that and go? What was the score of that Penn State game with 9 overtimes or 8 overtimes?
it was bad.
It was like in the 20s.
yeah,
Do you want that, or do you want
that's when we were in
38,
Chicago, I think. Yeah.
42, 43, 45, and 48 points per game? Because that's what Lincoln Riley
Not
did
one
at
good
Oklahoma.
game. That's per game
Per
for
game.
a season. And
So
hardware. Do you
over-
want Heismans? Do you want more Heismans? You don't do it by putting a fullback in there and,
Over 5 years, he's basically averaged 44 points a game. Somewhere in that, and 43, 44 points. That's
how many times has USC scored 44 points in the last 3 years? Like
3 maybe off the top of my head.
That's a research question to anyone.
yeah,
in
like
the
not
comments.
averaging it over 5 years, like doing it once or twice over 3 years. Like so if you hate the concept of it, just watch what Oklahoma does. If you just think I just throw the ball over the field, like that's not what it is.
Yeah, they run counter. They're going to pull the guard and the tackle at the same time. They got some really unique schemes off of some of their plays that they run.
Play action stuff, like it's like
Yeah.
there's stuff that you would like. Like, did you like what Norm Chow was doing? Like, I mean, there was some cool stuff there. Like
one
there's a
of
lot
the videos that I watched, so I try to do as much research on Lincoln Riley. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Was when Urban Meyer was still working for Fox, and he said he's doing a lot of stuff that I've never even seen. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good compliment from a guy who's won multiple national championships. That seems like a decent
Maybe.
comment.
In the same vein, I thought this was funny from Alan on Facebook. He said, a few weeks ago, I semi-jokingly asked if Shotgun could do a film study comparing USC's offense to Oklahoma to see how things are supposed to work. So, could we actually maybe get that film study?
I got to see if I can get some Oklahoma games downloaded or whatever so that I can try to do it on my TV at home. But
nice.
Because you have so much time on your hands right now, right,
That might,
Shotgun?
that might be something for the next couple weeks, but we'll see. We'll see what he did. There's going to be no film study this week. Sorry, guys. It's just not possible. What's
Shotgun,
going on?
how
There's
could
there's
you?
some things you normally do. Like,
Literally.
I usually put out a story with like the opening line for the game. Like all these things are like getting skipped this week
No.
because
Literally, I normally watch the game on Sunday. Then I watch the game probably 4 to 5 to 6 more times in total as I'm doing my participation, as I'm doing everything else. I haven't turned the game on yet because
it's been too crazy.
on Sunday I was like, okay, I'm going to go through some clothes and find some goodwill, just kind of thin the herd a little bit. And then I was like, I'll watch the game and then go into the studio to do tunnel. While I'm doing that, the news breaks and I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Let's go and start just writing stuff. And yeah, I literally in our group text, I said, somebody tell me what to do because I'm kind of like frozen. There's so much stuff going on. I'm just scrolling through Twitter and retweeting stuff. I need some direction. So
Yeah. We got a question from Scott from Eastern Washington who said, it was expected that there would be a mass exodus after the season through the transfer portal. Do you still think that will happen? And what's interesting is I think we will still see portal an exodus, but just for a different reason. I think it's more internally based rather than this place is on the decline and I want to leave. I think it's either going to be I don't fit in this or I've been kind of whisked away or asked to kind of find other pastures, if that makes sense.
There's going to be guys that are run like when you have a coaching change, there's going to be players that will run off. There's going to be players that are going to leave because they're like, yeah, this isn't what I signed up for. Like,
or it's not the system that I fit in, or whatever it may be.
all that kind of stuff. I mean, Clay Helton, he was still popular with the players. And yes, are you going to have the best team if the discipline really isn't there and the accountability and that stuff? Your team's probably not going to be as good. But there's going to be some players that would rather be in that kind of a system where it's like, oh, I can still do this, I can still do that. Oh, I'm going to have to like follow all these rules. Like, yeah, that's not really for me, which is fine. Like if that's but now you're changing the culture. You're going to try to change the culture around the football program. You're going to change it. And there's some players that aren't going to like that. So I think players will leave. There's going to be a massive amount of turnover, I think, on this roster. Players transferring in, players transferring out for various reasons. So when someone says, hey, I decommitted from that school, most of the time it wasn't that he decommitted. It was that the school dropped him or whatever. Like there's going to be some of that. Like
not most of the time.
Maybe
sometimes.
Some of the time, yeah.
In recruiting, very often now it's kind of half and half.
So
sometimes it's the team pushing a player out. Sometimes it's a player looking for greener pastures.
So you'll see guys enter the portal for a variety of reasons. But there's going to be turnover and significant turnover, just any kind of coaching change, because you're changing everything about the program that this player signed up to be in.
So this was developing as we started to go on air.
Oh.
So I don't know how much we'll be able to speak into it. We have received so many questions about Roy Manning and that whole situation. What can you guys even speak about at this point, since it's been developing kind of simultaneously right now?
Yeah. So apparently was recruiting, cornerbacks coach for Oklahoma.
Damani Jackson told Greg Biggins that Roy Manning was recruiting him as well as I think Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
So that comment has spurned everything from there. He's still on the staff at Oklahoma. So then is there a conflict of interest, all this type of stuff? And some people are asking, is it an NCAA violation? I don't even know if it's actually a violation. I'm not sure. I don't know for sure.
And we
haven't had time to research this. So.
Yeah, we interview prospects all the time that say stuff that aren't not true. Like, oh, this coach, I'm like, he doesn't even exist. Like
sometimes that does happen.
So it might have been confusion. Like who knows? And Oklahoma compliance tweeted out eye emojis with the 100 thing. So people are getting all over that. I saw there is a lot of Oklahoma fans that were in the YouTube chat. There's some that have been great. And there's some that are just they're bitter. It's breakups suck. It's bad. Like no matter what happens, like but Oklahoma's going to go out and steal somebody else's coach, and then you're like, it's going to be fine. But yeah, it's you don't want to see a fan base get upset like that. It's completely understandable. There's going to be bitter feelings, but that's just sort of the way it is. If they go out and take Matt Campbell away from Iowa State or something, and then do you care that you made the Iowa State fans upset? It's one of those things where it's the kind of the nature of the beast. But Oklahoma, it's great. I mean, great program. You wish them well. I genuinely think that Lincoln Riley. Loved his time there, really was trying to do everything he could to win. And it just was like this perfect storm situation. And that's why he ended up leaving.
Yeah. The whole Roy Manning situation, go back to that real quick, is
yeah.
we haven't had time to do the research and really dive into it. It happened as we were basically going to air. So all the questions, do we know? Like I said, don't know if it's even an NCAA recruiting violation. Could it be something that, maybe he was hoping to be on USC staff or had been told that, yeah, we're going to bring you in, and maybe USC doesn't now? That could potentially play out. There's a lot of things that could happen, but, and there's also been some similar situations a little bit where it's been like a slap on the wrist for the NCAA. And again, like I said, I don't know if it's actually a recruiting violation or just a big, like, what are you doing, dude?
What are you
type
doing,
of situation.
Dude?
Yeah.
We got a question on Facebook from Mike who said, when will we know the details about his contract?
So we asked about it yesterday, or some reporters did, and they're not being shared. It's private school, so you don't have to know. We might not know for a couple of years till like the tax return comes out.
I think it's 3 years after. I've been told some numbers. I'm going to hold off on that. Still working on confirmation of that, but it's up there if those numbers are true. I've also been told that Brian Kelly's is not as big as some people were trying to report it was either.
Oh, they were saying it was a 10-year, $95 million or something?
Somebody said it was $15 million a year, and I was like,
I think they released it was like 10 years, $95 million.
That's what I had actually heard.
Which
so I didn't see that had been released, but yeah, that was the numbers had been thrown out.
That seems to be the going rate. Like that's what Mel Tucker got. Brian Kelly got it. James Franklin got something similar, and Brandon Sosna said it's it's in the competitive landscape. So my guess is it's going to be a $10 million a year kind of thing, but maybe it was more. I don't know.
I would believe it to be a little bit more.
Wow. All right.
But we'll see. Trying to confirm those numbers and whatnot. But he definitely got paid. USC went out, spent the money, did what they had to do to bring in a top 5 coach in the country. And when's the last time you could say anything like that about USC outside of some of their lesser sports, with their less revenue sports at USC?
We had multiple questions. One, do you think Caleb Williams will follow Lincoln Riley to USC?
You can put it up.
Two, do you think Dart will go through the transfer portal? If so,
it's like you have 2 like freshman phenom quarterbacks at different programs, but then the coach goes from one to the other. If he brings his guy,
I'm out.
If he brings Caleb Williams, he's not bringing him to be a backup, and Caleb Williams is not coming to be a backup. And if you're Jackson Dart, you're like, well, I've already started games. Like, where do I want to go? Yeah. This is the era where you're not like, well, I'll wait and see if I can beat them out. It's really you just gotta go.
Yeah, because you get a free transfer, basically. I mean, a free transfer. You get to transfer one time without recourse from the NCAA. You don't have to sit out a year or anything. And if you're already in the starting lineup at a place and they bring in somebody else in front of you, you're going to be like, all right, I think I can start somewhere else that's comparable, and you go try to find that. So if he does bring in Caleb Williams, and it's not that there's an extra quarterback or another talented quarterback, because I think both Jackson Dart and Miller Moss are open to competition, definitely willing to compete, try to win that job. But if it's, hey, he's bringing in his guy, a guy that's already been in the system, that he's already played over an older guy in Spencer Rattler, then you're like, okay, that's probably, I'm out here. The more interesting and intriguing one to me is if Spencer Rattler, who's already declared and gone in the transfer portal, if he decided to come to USC, how that would play out. Because I think that's a little bit even different, because he is a couple years older, so it'd be maybe a 1-year thing. That one would be really fascinating to see how it all played out too. But if either one of those guys comes, then you got to be on transfer portal watch for both the USCs.
I think kind of Rattler probably ends up at Arizona State or something, but we'll see. Yeah.
We got a question from Kevin on YouTube who said, Lincoln to SC is a big win for the Pac-12. If successful, does he make the conference more desirable for big-name coaches? I feel like a lot of coaches aren't sold on Pac-12 commitment to football.
No, I think it does. I think it certainly helps. If Oregon can keep Mario Cristobal, because his name has been bouncing around, like USC, the name came up there. If Miami comes open, is he going to bolt for that? You got to keep the good coaches. I think Jonathan Smith, I think they're trying to get him an extension too. He's done good things at Oregon State. They're going to a bowl game for the first time in forever. Kyle Whittingham's the longest tenured coach, one of them, one of the longest tenured in college football. There's some good coaches, but you could upgrade. I think in 2012, when that first TV money came out, there was some upgrades and stuff going on, but it did mixed results. And now there's going to be a new influx of money, hopefully in a couple of years. If Lincoln Riley raises the level of the conference, then I think it's going to be forced that people put investments in. Like a Carl Durrell is just, that's sort of a head scratching hire for a Colorado. Even like a Herm Edwards, just some weird ones, And I don't know if you want to get the weird. I think you want to get the you want to go get a Lincoln Riley. You're going to get someone that's really good. Kalen DeBoer going from Fresno to Washington. I like that. I like that move. I mean, it's you're taking a chance on a Group of 5 coach, but he showed some real promise, and they beat some good teams. So
but
you want to see hires like that.
Would you prefer Washington to get Matt Campbell, because that was a name that was
No, I would. Yeah,
like that's the type of thing where if USC starts playing to their potential, you got to start trying to keep up, or you get left in the dust. And especially if there's new TV money come in, you feel like you have that opportunity to spend more money. So you could see teams try to keep up in the similar vein.
Yeah.
We got a question from Gray Fox on YouTube who said, do you see USC changing their out-of-conference schedule with tougher competition now that with Riley as a coach, like how Pete Carroll's teams did?
The thing with that is, it's like USC's out-of-conference scheduling is already pretty tough. One, you've got Notre Dame on the schedule every year.
Yeah.
Now, if USC goes to 8 conference games, or the Pac-12 goes to 8 conference games, which has been discussed a little bit, then maybe it's a little bit different. But USC's also got Ole Miss on the schedule. They got LSU on the schedule. So, there's some big-name teams on there. And when you play Ole Miss or LSU, you're still playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So that's 2 of your 3 out-of-conference games. So I don't think that, I think USC's administration right now has understood that that USC fans want those marquee games. They want to play in that, and that's a potential to help you in the college football playoff landscape.
Yeah. I mean, when they played the Texas series a couple of years ago, that was huge.
Loved it.
Absolutely. I mean,
it was awesome.
I got to stand next to Matthew McConaughey on the sideline. That was great. Keely looks
All right,
over and
all right,
like,
all right.
why is Ryan talking to Matthew McConaughey? I don't know. He just was
No,
right
my
next to
first
me.
thing was like, I got to document this. I was like, my boss and Matthew McConaughey just chilling on the sideline.
I think
of course.
Tyler Vaughn's made some crate, like when USC was coming back to win the game at the end. Tyler Vaughn's make like this crazy catch. And me
It was
and
Dante Burnett.
was it Burnett?
I think. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's like I didn't even know he was there, and we kind of look at each other, just like two people are like, oh my god, did you see that? Oh, hey, you're Matthew McConaughey.
Just the term.
No,
life
you were
of
right.
Ryan
That
Abraham.
is correct. A post route to Tyler Vaughn's touchdown, I believe.
Your brain is insane, Shotgun.
That's good.
I'm not Lincoln Riley though.
Well, there was one that
have you
didn't-
guys seen that? He is like Sean McVay.
Really?
They used to have him on a quiz show in Oklahoma, and we'll see if maybe we can get this to happen. I don't know, or maybe they'll do it on Trojans Live or something, where they would give him a play, a time of the game, and down and distance, and he would think about it for a second and come up with the play. Be like, oh yeah, that was a handoff to the left. You know, we got a good block on the edge with this. This is why that happens, because coaches watch film so much. And that's part of the reason why I remember some things, is because I try to, when I'm charting and stuff, try to look at stuff at multiple times, multiple angles, looking at different things. So, but yeah, when you watch a thing like those coaches do 30, 40, 50 times, it gets ingrained in there a little bit.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Alrighty, we're almost at the hour and a half mark.
Yeah, we should
So
probably
if you
wrap
have
this
any
up.
burning questions, get them in right now. Right now. We got a question.
Well, we got to go to Andrew Hose, and this is from the similar segment. Again, I watched a lot of Lincoln Riley stuff. He said, question, does Lincoln Riley know how much a gallon of milk costs now? Because he had no clue previously. He had this photographic memory of plays, but couldn't tell you about milk or anything else because he doesn't do the shopping. That's all his wife, Caitlin. She takes care of all that.
Ah, interesting.
And obviously, it's going to be organic or soy milk or something special out here
Almond
in California.
milk, yeah.
That'll be like
Goat milk.
$19.
So he wouldn't do
Something
good
like
on the
that.
Price is Right,
No, unlike you, Ryan.
which I flexed on that one.
Yeah.
It's like,
Ryan Abraham,
Lincoln, you have
winner of the
you have
Price
a
is
photographic memory, but I crushed the Price is Right. So.
Right. We got a lot of questions about Elias Ricks and his future. Any insight on that?
No insight necessarily, but I think that's someone that USC would definitely go after. And seeing that Lincoln Riley is here, and depending on what they can present for the complete defensive staff, that could be a player that wants to come home. Double legacy, I believe, at USC. I know his mom went to USC. I think it's a double legacy, though.
Oh, okay.
Shotgun, I'm going to really abandon the protocols. Basketball tomorrow.
What?
2 seconds. Go.
USC opens conference play, Pac-12 conference play tomorrow against Utah. USC has moved up in the rankings. They're number 17 in the coaches poll, number 20 in the AP poll. They're bringing Utah's coming in. Utah's 5-1, USC 6-0. Should be a good game. And I think it was Ben down here who asked, or Big T said, "Can we all show up to basketball tomorrow to show Bohn and Sosna our appreciation for the USC fans?" So I think that's a great idea. You guys should come out and watch the basketball team. They're a unique team that just won the Wooden Legacy tournament down in Anaheim on Thanksgiving, or day after Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Tremendous defense, playing great defense. They're going to be in every game, and you can see those young players getting better and better as the season progresses, and they've got a ton of leadership and experience. So a unique team, fun team, a really deep team. Could be a team that makes some noise in March.
Interesting. Jasper Smith said, if you can only get one of these recruits, who are you choosing, Damani Jackson or Devin Campbell?
The answer is obviously Devin Campbell because of the issues they've had at offensive line where they have not recruited at the high level. There are concerns at cornerback for sure because Isaac Taylor-Stewart just walked in the senior day ceremonies. That seems like he's gone. And Chris Steele could leave to go to the NFL. I think that's what his desire was before the season. We'll see where he feels like how he did postseason, during the season to put that tape out there. But you could lose both of your starting cornerbacks right there. And your backups are Jaden Williams, who's a converted safety, if I remember correctly, from Corona Centennial, and Joshua Jackson, who's converted wide receiver. And Joshua Jackson's barely played. Jaden Williams has played a little bit. So, not a ton of experience there.
We got a question from A Dog's Life in Portland who says, was continuity of the system part of the consideration with picking Riley, seeing as Riley and Harrell are both part of the Leach tree of air raid?
Hell to the no.
No, I don't think it was part of something they were looking for.
No.
I think it was more, hey, that's one of the top coaches in the country.
Yes.
We're going to take him. What is
If
interesting?
he ran the triple option, they would have hired him. Yeah.
What is interesting is all the connections that he does have. does he decide to keep someone around? I know people are asking about Graham Harrell. I don't think that's going to happen. But Clay McGuire, the offensive line coach, he's been on staff with him at East Carolina. He was a player with him at Texas Tech. Is there a position for him? Keely, Chris, and I discussed that today. That's an interesting one. There's a lot of Texas Tech connections on this staff, or just guys from Texas. And Lincoln Riley said, he was asked about retention, and he said, I know a lot of these guys. I've got connections with a lot of them, or I've played against them, or, coached against them. So, it's going to be difficult. He doesn't want to rush into anything. They want to go through the whole process and see what is going to be available out there, because if I'm coach at whatever, Minnesota or whatever, and I say, and I'm a damn good whatever coach, whatever position, man, Lincoln Riley just went to USC. Does he got a so-and-so coach on yet? No,
Yeah.
he doesn't.
Maybe I'll do that.
Agent, hey, can you call him up and see if if they've got somebody yet, or they're looking around, whatever.
Nice.
That could easily happen, because you can see, like I talked about with the former players, they know the talent potential with Lincoln Riley, and if you're a coach, you look at it and say, I want to go coach with that guy. What the potential of USC under a Lincoln Riley, I want to be a part of that.
I mean, Matt Leiner's been retired for years. He was like, man, I could play in this offense. It'd be fun, so.
That'd be something. David Johnson on YouTube said, why think that USC under Riley will build a defense that can win the national championship? ?
Okay.
Big question.
But this is college football in the modern world. Like, do you remember the 2019 LSU team?
They outscored everyone, yes.
Did you know, how many defensive players from that team are in the NFL right now? Like,
a good number.
Like, all of them. Literally, they've had a ton of guys. They play Mississippi, unranked Mississippi, gave up 37 points. Well, they scored 58, and so that's what's going to happen. The Alabama game that year, 46-41. They gave up points. They're going to give up. You're going to give up points when you're scoring a ton of points, and they have the Texas A&M 50-7 game. You're going to get some of those too, but you just have to keep it reasonable. There's going to be some bad defensive games, but your offense is so good, you're going to be able to outscore people. So yes, I think that they can have a defense that's going to be capable of doing that. They'll have a bunch of talent, but in modern college football, you're going to give up points, because especially if you're scoring points, you're going to be giving up points.
Why are you hitting these OU fans that have come to our show with these strays? Because what happened to that OU team, Lincoln Riley, against that LSU team?
That was 63-28, so they didn't score enough points.
That's
there.
not good. Yeah,
points, yeah.
Yes, there were concerns. When you get up 63 points, when you get into the playoff, there are concerns there.
Yeah.
They have to clean some things up. I think that they did with Grinch this year to an extent, from what I've watched. And again, it's a limited amount from, we're at the stadium on Saturdays for 12 hours or whatever, so we don't get to watch a ton of games. But I think they made some improvements there. Their offense just wasn't as good as it has been the last couple of years. This year with some inconsistency at quarterback and not running the ball as well. So they got to get offensive line at USC, or you're not going to be scoring those points that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Final question of the show goes to Charles, who says, what are reasonable expectations for USC next season?
Why do you want to be reasonable, first of all? Be unreasonable.
Ryan.
National champion.
If a fan is being reasonable, we have to encourage that.
Okay. This is the time to be unreasonable. Let's beat Chris Trevino on Twitter right now. You can do that.
That was incredible.
I honestly think, USC was the favorite to win the South this year. 2021. I think they were the media pick, right? I think winning the conference in 2022 is not out of the realm of possibility. At the very least, win the division. There's no reason why that can't happen. And depending on how these next 2 weeks go, if he puts a top 10 recruiting class together, boom, I think you can win the conference. He'll probably get some big transfers in. I don't think the conference is not on top of the world right now. Sure. Oregon looked like the best team, and Utah beat the snot out of them. So this is winnable. Do you want to put that kind of heat on a first-time head coach? At USC, he's not the first-time head coach, but his first year, no. But I would not be shocked, especially if this recruiting class goes really well. They get some good transfers in. They'll probably be the favorite to win the Pac-12 just because you have enough talent and you have a competent head coach, as opposed to having enough talent and not a competent head coach.
We'll see.
All right.
There are major areas of deficiency, and especially if they have some older guys decide to leave the program at certain positions, especially in the trenches is an area where they've struggled to recruit in the past. So maybe they go out and they get Devin Campbell, and they get Josh Connerly, and maybe even Ernest Green. You got 3 freshmen that are high 4 or 5-star guys. That's great. Are you wanting those guys to start from day one? You think you can rely on them to help you win a conference? That's a very tough thing to ask. Now, can you go in the transfer portal and get an offensive lineman or 2?
Oh, yeah.
That is a potential. And Oklahoma has done that under Lincoln Riley. They got a couple last year from Tennessee, I believe. They got Chris Murray from UCLA. So they have done that. That's a possibility. But they have to answer those questions, or else, it doesn't matter how many 5-star receivers you have if you can't block up front and create that time for the quarterback. USC fans know that. And the offensive line played much better this year than it has the last couple years. But you could lose. All those guys could leave. The 5 guys that are starters or 5 older guys could leave if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big question to me. Trenches.
All righty, gentlemen. That is a full show for tonight.
Whoa. We got one more question.
Bonus show.
He always has to
One
do
more
this.
question.
Bonus
Ryan, send him off to Rick Caruso.
Well, 2 more questions. William Pappas wanted to ask, can the name Clay Helton be stricken from all the print the way they did in ancient Rome? Unfortunately, the internet kind of makes that difficult unless somebody works at Google. And then Mark Watkins said, question, is the Lincoln Riley hire the biggest USC-related hire since Ryan decided to hire Keely full-time?
Hey.
Wow.
Shouts to Mark Watkins, a true homie.
Come on, Mark. Her price has been driven up already. Man.
Will you come through on that higher price? Ryan?
We'll see. We're keeping you around is a good, that's a benefit. Just making sure you stay.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
We love Keely. We love,
Thank you. All righty. That's going to wrap it up. Scheduling note. No show on Tuesday. This is
Today
Tuesday.
is Tuesday.
I don't know what day it is. I've been going
strange.
Too many days. No show on Thursday, but we will have a show on Sunday. A special show on Sunday.
Special. This is bonus.
Bonus.
Sunday special.
We will have Brandon Sosna on the show. So be sure to tune in on Sunday, the regular time, 7 p.m. We'll have him live in studio in the show.
Wait, USC's chief of staff will be sitting here on the
live
show?
In
answering your questions?
Tunnel Vision studio.
I guess I just won't come then.
We're punting shotgun.
We're going to punt shotgun for Brandon.
Yeah, that's basically what's happening. And shotgun, you're taking one for the team.
You guys.
Thank you.
You guys prefer that anyways. I know.
Yeah, so we're
I'm okay
excited.
with it.
We're excited to have Brandon in the studio, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And this is your chance. If you want to ask USC's chief of staff for the athletic department questions, if they're good enough, we will ask them and see what he has to say.
They heavily screen these.
Yes, we will heavily screen your questions. But
no, he's good. He'll answer.
Yeah,
and he's got good answers if. Hey, we can't say that or whatever. And
if he wants to deflect, he knows how to.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
Yeah. So. Yep. Alrighty, that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. That is Shotgun Spratling. That's Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. We will see you on Sunday. Bye.
Check out basketball tomorrow.